I've prepared a flow demo to explain and show the two different users that typically will engage on the flow platform. One being the expediters from the PepsiCo team, and a second being the actual transporters, which have their own login to the flow platform from where they will also interact. Logging in as a expediter with the main aim to get a gauge and visibility on where the transporters have updated their respective loads. On the landing page, you'll see that immediately we give a current date and followed by a current month to date view with a very basic red and green depiction of what transporters have followed suit on the required updates that they need to give. Red meaning those transporters have not updated their respective transactions pertaining to what the expediters from PepsiCo want to see, and green being they have. From a glance, one can then manage the transporters in terms of those that are applying more often than not. From the landing page going into the actual detail, which we refer to as the grid, is where the expediters will be able to see the list of detailed transactions. As previously explained, the core list of data viewed in this grid is currently syncing from the planning source that the expediting team is using from the SharePoint list. And then there are a specific number of allocated data fields in the grid that is only populated by the respective transporters, either from the three methods as mentioned, directly syncing data from the transporters management system, either from potentially a manual Excel which we consume, or the transporter capturing directly into the data grid, which I'll show you next. The expediting team has got this multiple filter, multiple sort, and essentially a custom view grid on what columns they would want to see and interact and search to get the respective data they require. For example, if I was an expediter searching all transactions in status loaded and potentially wanted to filter this further to see all loads going to a specific destination, I can have multiple filters used, and you'll see that the interaction on the grid is as instant as possible. If I then scroll to the far right, this is where the following columns of data will be synced on a time base from the respective transporters. And the most important being, what is the status of that specific transaction as per the haulier, the date of that last update, the current position of that last update, and the specific time linked to that current position update. Because this is an interactive, consistent feed of where and what status these transactions are from the haulier to the expediting team. We have also allowed then for the expediters to actually add comments directly into the portal grid, and this could be used to track comments and be used for further KPI measurement at a end of a given time period. So this grid can then be Excel, exported to Excel, PDF, or a copy made of, and automated emails can also be set up, which we refer to as schedules, that can be sent to respective end clients or to the respective third-party suppliers with updates on the actual grid. What we further then created for the expediting team is a consolidated dashboard view on the data we are collecting from the respective transporters and the data source from the PepsiCo expediting team. From here, one can get a consolidated view and use the various filters to drill into the data further. For example, loading dates, the number of shipments, and filtered either per end customer or per haulier. And immediately you'll see that the consolidated view gives the last update position of the respective views of loads you are looking at. This can, again, like I mentioned, be sub-filtered per specific haulier or end client, or searching for a specific PL number. And when going on to a specific PL number level, meaning individual transaction, one can also pull the history of that specific tracking updates. This is just one example of an array of dashboards that PepsiCo then can create on the data we are collecting from the respective transporters. If I for a moment then view or log in as a transporter, you'll see that my landing page is much different. I can only see transactions where I am the specific transporter. And going into the grid, the data fields have already been pre-filtered to only showcase the transactions for that specific transporter, as you can see in this example. If I then scroll to the far right, the number of columns allocated to each transporter is also as per what the PepsiCo expediting team has set up. And here you can see that as transporter, I can either sync the data as from my TMS, or I can come into the grid and I can directly capture the specific data, meaning status or current position or time of position. This is for the option where the haulier has elected to manually update the data in the grid. Alternatively, this would either be synced from the transport management system or the telematics system, either lastly potentially an Excel used, which is manually updated, and then we sync that into the portal. So the transporter can from here also export, copy PDF, and change the custom view of what columns they would like to see, ultimately giving them a user-friendly view to be able to see the transactions that have been assigned to them, and thereafter ability to update the respective data that they need to for the expediting team to see what they require. The Flow login is accessible from a web browser, is user-friendly on a mobile or responsive on smaller screen interactions, hence making it accessible for users from different mobile devices, and as long as you have a proper or stable internet connection.